Hey, are you ready to protect your real estate investments like a pro? Well, in this ultimate guide, I'm going to walk you through the various steps you need to be focused on when it comes to protecting your investment real estate. All right, let's get started. Okay, so when it comes to protecting investment real estate, that is, you have a piece of property and you realize keeping it in your own name is never a great idea, because if anything goes wrong with that property, then that's going to bring liability back to you. So what I want to show you the steps that you need to go through in analyzing how you protect that piece of rental property to ensure that if a lawsuit does occur, number one, you're not going to be liable for the claim that's brought against the property. Or number two, if you're sued personally, that they're not going to be able to take that investment property from you. Now, what do we look at when it comes to protecting your property? So if I had a piece of investment real estate right here, and I wanted to put it into an entity for asset protection, you have a couple of different structures, but the two primary structures that we use, number one is going to be an LLC, and the second one over here is going to be a land trust. Okay, so the question becomes, which entity should I be using to protect my investment real estate? Well, in order to determine which one we want to look at, we need to look at the property itself and see what's going on with it. So if you have an investment property and you're considering placing it into an entity, the first thing you want to ask yourself with this investment property, number one, is there debt on the property? All right, we want to know if it has a mortgage. And the reason why that is important is because if there's debt on the property, then you're at risk of acceleration. I mean, if I take this property and I put it directly into a limited liability company and my lender finds out about it, they could call the note due. So here's what you need to do. If you have debt on the property, then what you need to search is you need to go to Freddie loan lookup. Go to Freddie loan lookup, Google that, and then do the same thing for Fannie. Go to Fannie loan lookup. You're going to go to this website, you're going to put in your property address, and then you're going to put in your personal information. Because what you're searching now is to determine whether or not the lender that you originally used when you obtained this loan has sold that loan to Freddie or Fannie. Now, why is this important for you to look this up? Because when loans are underwritten, if they're a conventional mortgage, typically what they're doing is they're underwriting those loans under Freddie Fannie guidelines. And if they underwrite them with Freddie Fannie guidelines, then Freddie or Fannie will buy these loans from these lenders. So when they do that and they sell the loan to the lender, then Freddie or Fannie has certain guidelines that they operate under. And namely what that means is that if I were to take a piece of property that with a loan that's owed by Freddie or Fannie, I could transfer that into the LLC and I don't need to worry about lender acceleration, meaning that if Freddie or Fannie discover the fact that I had a piece of investment property in my name and now it's in an LLC, they're not going to call the loan due. You see, with Freddie Fannie underwriting guidelines, it permits transfer of real estate into an LLC. That was a change that took place about 6 years ago with them that allows these types of transfers. Now, if your loan isn't held by Freddie or Fannie, then that lender that currently holds your loan can, and what I have seen will often accelerate the note, because what happens is that when you take out a loan for this property, maybe it was 4 years ago, you got it at 4.25. Now that same loan, if you were to get it today, is at 9.5%. So those lenders have every incentive to monitor property transfers. And if they see a property transfer in an LLC, that allows them to exercise the acceleration clause in your mortgage and say, hey, there's been a change in ownership, therefore you have to refi at a higher rate. So if it's held by Freddie or Fannie, you can transfer it into an LLC. If it's not, then what you're going to need to do is rather than go directly into an LLC, what you have to do is set up a land trust. That's why I put this on the screen. So now we're going to move our property first into a land trust, because a land trust is basically a block to the acceleration clause, because you have what's called the Garn-St. Germain Act, which is a federal depository act, which holds lenders to specific requirements when properties are transferred into certain types of entities, meaning that if a property is transferred into a trust, then they're not permitted to accelerate. Now, a lot of lenders, all lenders federal that fall under federal guidelines are aware of this. And so when they see that a transfer has been made from an individual into a trust, they're not going to exercise their rights to accelerate. So the land trust is basically like a blocker entity, right? It's blocking what's really going on behind the scenes because the land trust isn't recorded anywhere. No one knows who's a party to this trust document. Now, here's what you want to do. When you set up this trust, okay, you're going to set it up where you're the initial beneficiary of the trust. Now, you have to do that in order to transfer the title into the trust and not create any transfer tax issues. And I'm going to cover that in a moment as well. So you're going to transfer the property into the trust name in the care of a trustee. And here's where you can get a little creative if you want. You can use a nominee trustee, maybe set up a Wyoming LLC for anonymity purposes as well to be the trustee. But the idea is we want to get into the trust where I'm the beneficiary, and then I can take my beneficial interest and I can move it into a limited liability company. Because in the land trust, unlike a living trust, you can change the ownership of that trust. And so I can transfer it. A living trust you can't transfer until you die, but a land trust you can transfer while you're alive. So what ends up happening in this type of structure is that you have an LLC here like this that will own a land trust like this, and the land trust owns the property. Now, if you're first time into my channel and you're not familiar with land trust, I encourage you to catch some of my videos on land trust. Just search my channel. I've got plenty of videos on this. But and also, if you have seen a few of them, you're looking at that going, wow, what does that mean from a tax standpoint? Zero. It's not going to increase your tax filing because all of this can be set up as disregarded. So your taxes will stay exactly the way they are prior to the transfer. So that's number one, debt encumbered. No debt or held by Freddie or Fannie, then you can put it directly into an LLC like that. Debt that's not held by Freddie or Fannie, then you go with option number 2 and not option number 1. Okay, the second issue we want to look at are transfer taxes or transfer fees, not taxes, transfer fees or tax reassessment. Okay, so we want to know whether or not if we transfer property into an LLC directly, whether or not that's going to trigger some type of fee or tax reassessment on the property. So this depends on where the property is located. So you need to know what that county or that state will impose when you transfer real estate. So you could find yourself in a situation where your property is completely paid off and or it's got debt on it, but it's Freddie or Fannie, and you think, hey, it's good to go. I can put it directly into a limited liability company. But the problem is, if you did transfer it directly into the LLC, like I just said, but there's a tax reassessment that would hit you. For example, in Florida, is a perfect case study, because in Florida, if you have property, you're capped on the annual property tax increases that they can impose upon your real estate. Well, if you transfer your property into an LLC, it resets it. So if you held this property for 7 years and now you're finally getting around to putting an asset protection plan together and you move it into the LLC, your property tax basis may be in your hands $300, but when it goes into the LLC, they turn around and reassess it and say, oh, no, now your property tax basis is $650. And so it just really accelerates your taxes for our property taxes. Or if you transfer the property in, and there's debt on it, maybe there's a fee that you have to pay to transfer that property in. So those are concerns that we have. So in that particular case, you're going to use option number 2 again and skip option number 1. So whenever there's a property transfer tax or property transfer fee or reassessment, you're always going to want to start with a land trust. Transfer the property first into a land trust, then transfer the land trust into a limited liability company. These two things right here are crucial for real estate investors, and it's where I see a lot of mistakes are made when they first start out creating their plans and they're going out there and they're working with individuals or companies that they find on the internet, or worse yet, they're recommended by some gurus in the real estate space. And the people that they're talking to do not understand this level of detail. And a good case in point is, as I was reading on Bigger Pockets not too long ago, where a company made this type of recommendation to a real estate investor to transfer their real estate directly into the LLC. And I saw another attorney weigh in on it in that particular state and said, hey, you cannot do that. You cannot follow their advice, because if you do, you're going to get hit with a substantial transfer fee. So be careful on the advice in which you're receiving. So that's what I would do when it comes to, if you have real estate and you want to get it protected, you're going to be placed it into a limited liability company. Even if this was a series LLC, it doesn't matter. The rules are the same. Business entities, you got to know how to get it in there so you're not going to get hit with a transfer tax. Guys, if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. And if you want to learn more about asset protection for real estate investors, I would encourage you to attend Anderson's Tax and Asset Protection Workshop. We hold these at various times during the month. It's completely free for you. It's a full day event where we dive into these issues and many more when it comes to protecting your investment in real estate and showing you how to really cut your taxes as an investor. Hey, you want to learn if you want to join this event, all you got to do is look in the show notes. I have a link in there. Click on it. Like I said, it's completely free. And the best part about it is when you come there, bring your questions, your individual questions about your specific situation, because I bring a team of attorneys and tax professionals to the event who are there to answer your questions about your individual situation. Look forward to seeing you on the event. Take care.